There's a silent war being waged inside your skull, a sophisticated campaign of psychological occupation so complete that most never realize they've been colonized. Every thought you believe is original, every preference you assume is personal, every decision you consider freely made. These are illusions carefully maintained by systems designed to hijack human consciousness. The terrifying truth: your mind hasn't belonged to you for years, but tonight, that change. You felt the invasion in those rare moments of clarity, when you suddenly recognize the absurdity of scrolling through endless feeds you don't enjoy, buying things you don't need, repeating patterns you don't believe in. These aren't personal failures. They're symptoms of psychological occupation. The average person receives more external programming before breakfast than a 1950s CIA operative encountered in months of brainwashing experiments. The methods have simply grown more sophisticated, wrapped in the comforting guise of technology and consumer choice. The first layer of occupation lives in your attention economy. Neurological studies now prove that the human brain can only maintain true focus for about 40 minutes before requiring reset. Yet we voluntarily submit to attention-fracturing technologies designed by teams of neuroscientists working for tech conglomerates. The result: a population that can no longer sustain a thought long enough to question its origin. Your dwindling attention span isn't personal weakness. It's engineered compliance. Language forms the second occupation force. The words available to you determine the thoughts possible for you. As corporate newspeak replaces nuanced vocabulary, from citizens to consumers, from patients to clients, your very capacity for complex thought atrophies. Political strategists know this well. They deliberately reduce complex issues to slogans because they understand that simplified language creates simplified thinking. You're not losing your ability to think critically. You're being linguistically starved into submission. Perhaps the most insidious occupation lives in your emotional responses. Through years of classical conditioning via media and advertising, your fears and desires have been carefully mapped and manipulated. That sudden rage when a politician speaks, the irrational craving when you see a particular logo, these aren't organic reactions. They're implanted emotional landmines, detonated on cue by carefully crafted triggers. The proof: your great-grandparents would find your emotional responses to modern stimuli completely inexplicable. The circadian invasion may be the most physically damaging. Your natural sleep-wake cycle, evolved over millennia to sync with planetary rhythms, has been systematically disrupted by artificial lighting, screen emissions, and work schedules designed for machines, not humans. The resulting sleep deprivation creates the perfect conditions for psychological vulnerability. A tired mind is a compliant mind, and modern life ensures you're never fully rested enough to mount proper resistance. But tonight, we begin the counterinsurgency. The first step is recognizing you're already in a state of psychological emergency. This isn't metaphorical. Brain scans show that constant digital stimulation creates neural pathways identical to substance addiction. The withdrawal you feel when disconnected isn't personal failing. It's chemical dependency engineered by design teams who studied Skinner's behaviorism more thoroughly than most psychologists. The reclamation starts with attention sovereignty. Begin with the 45 to 15 rule. For every 45 minutes of focused work or thought, take 15 minutes completely screen-free. This isn't productivity advice. It's neurological resistance training. You're rebuilding your brain's capacity for sustained attention, the foundation of all free thought. Within weeks, you'll notice foreign thoughts becoming easier to identify and eject. Language liberation comes next. For 1 hour daily, Engage with pre-20th century literature or philosophy, texts written before modern propaganda systems were perfected. This isn't about nostalgia. It's about exposing your mind to sentence structures and vocabularies that create different neural pathways. As your linguistic range expands, so does your capacity for independent thought. Emotional deprogramming requires the body ledger technique. Keep a physical notebook, never digital, where you record emotional spikes throughout the day. Next to each entry, note what triggered it, how your body felt, and whether the reaction served you. Over time, patterns emerge revealing which emotions are truly yours and which were implanted. The body doesn't lie. It remembers what the occupied mind has forgotten. Sleep reclamation is your biological foundation. For the next 30 nights, go to bed and wake up at the same time, avoiding all screens for 90 minutes before sleep. This isn't about rest. It's about restoring your natural circadian weaponry. Well-rested minds are notoriously difficult to control, which is why every authoritarian regime in history first attacks sleep patterns. The final stage is the most radical, building your own cognitive infrastructure. This means creating personal systems for information processing before exposing yourself to external inputs. Morning pages journaling before checking phones. Daily meditation before consuming news. Physical activity before digital engagement. You're not avoiding the world. You're ensuring you meet it from a position of strength, not vulnerability. These methods work because they're based on an uncomfortable truth. Freedom isn't a natural state. It's a maintained condition requiring constant vigilance. The occupied mind wants to believe the war is over, that compliance is comfort. But history shows us that minds can remain occupied long after physical battles end, sometimes for generations. You'll know the reclamation is working when advertisements begin to look absurd rather than appealing. When political rhetoric starts sounding hollow rather than convincing. When your first impulse isn't to reach for a device, but to sit with a thought. These are the signs of a mind returning to its rightful owner. The occupation never ends completely. The systems arrayed against your autonomy are too sophisticated, too well-funded, too embedded in modern life. But neither does the resistance. Every moment of conscious attention is an act of rebellion. Every independent thought is liberated territory. The war for your mind isn't coming. It's already here. And tonight, you've taken your first shot.